Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to episode 13 of the Since I Was Young podcast. Joining you as always is myself, Ewan, and the gentleman on the left of the screen, Alan. Alan, how have you been, sir? You been all good?
Yeah, mate, all good, all good. Just a nice quiet few days, eh? Nothing overly exciting going on, but it's nice and the weather's been cracking as well, so can't complain.
Absolutely, and it is Sunday as well, and obviously day of rest and a day to talk about Heart of Midlothian. So we've got quite a jam-packed filled episode as always. We're going to be going through our main topic for this episode, season predictions. As we shall know, it is a mere few weeks away until our first competitive league campaign in over 18 months, and I cannot wait. Seriously, I cannot wait for this to watch us back in the top flight, and more importantly as well, to hopefully at some point go back to Tynecastle and see the famous. Going to be going through a few sort of bits and bobs about that, and as always as well, Alan will be taking you through our news segment as well, with a few things to go through on that. We're going to be highlighting on the friendly against Sunderland that was yesterday, which was the Saturday the 16th. Was that
17th.
right, Alan? It's
17th.
17th. Anyway, about the game, and we're going to be going through a update on the season tickets as well, and we're going to be just talking about a small bit from the glorious interview that the This Is My Story podcast did just a few days ago, where they sat down with Joe Savage, and we'll go through a tiny wee bit on what he said and the interview itself. But as always, before we kick off the episode, as always, this is the Since I Was Young the podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. If you are a fan, please think about subscribing and smash that like button if you are a fan of the podcast as well. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can, as always. The link is in the description and on screen as well. And also, if you want to get in touch with us officially as well, our email is in the screen as well. It is since I was young 1874 at gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with Alan as well, you can go to his personal Twitter page as well in the description, as well as my football YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. So we're going to crack on with the news segment. So Alan, we've got a very exciting update on the season tickets for this year's campaign.
Yeah. The club put out the most recent update, which was that we've hit the 10,000 mark. Which is fantastic. Yeah, it's great. Considering the way the world is right now, and obviously the uncertainties, and people have lost jobs and things, and finances are probably a lot tighter than they would otherwise be for people. So
of course,
it's good to see that we've hit that 10,000 mark, and I think that was the end of the renewal stage, if I'm right in thinking that. So there's still ongoing sales, so hopefully they'll shift a few more thousand, and we'll get Tynecastle back to being jam packed as it was the last time we were in the Premier League. So that'd be fantastic news. But yeah, no, it's just nice to see, as I say, that the club are still shifting the tickets, and obviously fans are keen to get back and want to be back in the stadium and back in the boys, hopefully.
Absolutely, mate, because obviously we'll go through it in a wee bit, but you sent me like a few clips of the game against COVID, the Rangers, and even with the small amount, was it 2,000 or was it?
Yeah, 2,000
pounds. Even the noise that came out of just those 2,000 people, it just makes me think how much of a moment it'll be when that is full. I cannot wait, mate. Cannot wait.
Yeah, no, just on that as well. I don't know if I sent it to you or maybe you've seen it or not. There was a clip of Ginelli when he's sitting on the bench,
Yeah.
having been subbed off, and then the 2,000 fans start singing the Heart song, and he's looking round and he just looks overawed, and you're like,
How the
this is
fuck?
2,000. This is 2,000 fans, Josh. Like, wait till you see 20,000. Wait till it's full, and I think, before we move on to the next thing, I think that I said it before that fans are such a massive, massive part. And Robbie said it as well, not even just after the Cove Rangers, he said it after the Sunderland friendly as well. He says, fans make such a difference. And just adding that little bit extra. And even your man, Andy Halliday, said it in an interview that I read as well. He said that the fans being in the stadiums gives you an extra 10% and pushes you on
Definitely.
again. So, but yeah, no, that clip of Ginelli just it really kind of got me, and I was like, this is a new guy. Because I mean, don't forget, he signed with us last year on loan, but he's never played in front of supporters
No.
until that
Yeah.
game, and you just think that. I mean, we'll speak about it again in the Joe Savage part of this, but that's a massive, massive thing to play in front of crowds like that every week.
Of
It's
course.
huge. So
Of
yeah,
course,
no,
Alan.
it's, as I say, it's great. 10,000 fans already, season tickets, and hopefully there'll be a few thousand more on top of that.
Definitely, mate, and we cannot wait. And since we did mention it just there as well, we had the friendly game just yesterday against Sunderland at the Castle. It was a 2-0 defeat. Obviously, it's not that sort of important because for friendly games, like you said, just last week there as well, Alan. For the friendly games, it's not about what the result is. It's just mainly for the fitness and to see for any sort of the prospects, etc. Did you watch much of the game or?
I actually didn't. I was trying to find a stream for it, but there wasn't really one going. But I kind of kept up with it on Twitter, which is a difficult thing to do in the best of times. But yeah, I mean, like you say, these games are purely for fitness and getting the time into the legs and, trying systems and shapes and things. And it seems like we did that. I think there were a few people that, like, as I say, following a game on Twitter is very, very difficult because you've got so many people's opinions of one incident, and you could scroll through it and see people saying, oh, we've been terrible, we've been awful, we can't string two passes together, this isn't looking good. And then the next person says, actually, I thought we were all right. And, we created some chances. And, so it's subjective. And that for me is why I don't really like following games on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, the common theme that I read about the game was that Finlay Pollock put in another good show. So, like you're saying about prospects, we had Connor Smith came on for a bit. Aidan Denham came on for a little bit at the end. Henderson also got a run out as well. So, and I think there was a young guy, Leo Watson, as well, which is a name I wasn't too familiar with when I heard his name there. But yeah, I mean, I said it before the game and after it as well, having seen the result, that Sunderland, although they're in League One in England, they're better than probably 60 to 70% of the teams that we're going to play in the Premier League next season. So the result doesn't bother me. And from what I read, like, I mean, obviously the club official match report of it is going to make it sound like we were absolutely brilliant, but it does sound like we created some chances. But yeah, I'm not really that fussed about a result like that. And Aidan McGeady having to resort to taking a dive in a pre-season friendly tells you all you need to know about Aidan McGeady. But apparently the pre-season Messi, Loic Damour, put quite a similar dive effort in as well to try and win a penalty for us. So, it is what it is.
Absolutely, but yeah. So we had the friendly there just from yesterday, which, as mentioned, was a 2-0 defeat to Sunderland. We've got some possible some ins and outs concerning the team, Alan. I'm sure that you mentioned to me that there was a kind of update on Finlay. Was it the Pollock's sort of future is in terms of this campaign? Would you like to shed a bit of light on that?
Yeah, again, something else that I read that Robbie said about Finlay Pollock, he's getting lots of praise from in and around the club, and a lot of the sort of senior players are saying, this kid's he's made the breakthrough and he's impressing, and he's not looking out of place in the first team, which is great. But I think we have to remember as well that he's only 17 years old, so let's not get too carried away. But Robbie basically said that, because I don't know if you remember, there was a few months ago that Robbie said that quite a lot of the young players will go out on loan for this season. But he seems to have backtracked on Finlay Pollock and said, well, we'll probably keep him for the first half of the season, keep him around the squad, and then probably it wouldn't surprise me if, like, from January he might get loaned out maybe to the Championship or something like that, which I think would be good, unless he's playing a part in our first team squad. But what I think it means for now is that we're probably not looking to sign a player in that position, because we're thinking, well, Finlay can do a job. And then obviously we'll see where we are in January in terms of how many games he plays between now and then. But look, he looks a very good, interesting prospect, and I like what I've seen in the clips of him. But again, as I say, 17. Let's not hang our hopes up on him and build him up to be some absolutely baller, and because it might not work. I hope it does. I genuinely hope it does, and he's done very well to start with. But this is still the very, very early stages of his career. But having people like Halliday and Peter Haring and even Stephen Naismith behind the scenes will be helping out. So it's nice to have those influences around them. But let's not get carried away here. This kid's got something. But we've seen him play against teams that are inferior to Hearts. If he turns up and does a Harry Cochrane against Celtic on the first day of the season, I'll quite happily eat my words. But who knows? Who knows
it? Well, exactly, Alan. And you just touched upon there as well. There's been a bit of the word and the mouth in terms of recruitment as well. We'll talk a bit about that when we get to the Joe Savage sort of part of the news segment. But you had mentioned to me just last week there that we're almost trying to recruit in the striker role and in the defensive sort of department.
Yes, there was a rumor doing the rounds. I don't know if you'd heard it, but there was Katic, the defender at Rangers. He's fallen down the pecking order at Rangers with the number of defenders that they've got now. So it's potentially a loan, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I personally think that, this is just me talking, but I think forwards is an area that we need more than defenders.
Oh yeah, no.
I think if he's going to play a three at the back, like we've seen him do in pre-season, and Stephen Kingsley played at the left of the back three in the game against Peterhead, I think it was.
Yeah.
So he's shown he can play on the left of the back three, and we've seen Michael Smith play on the right of a back three. So we've got options in defence. Obviously, I still think we need a better defender than a Halkett or a Popescu, to be honest. But if you've got Kingsley and Smith there able to do a job, then I wouldn't be too worried about that. Forwards worries me because I don't think, aside from Ginnelly, Boyce, and Gary Mackay-Steven, I don't think we really. There's a couple of the young players as well, but I worry if like a Gary Mackay-Steven was to get injured or a Ginnelly was to get injured, because Ginnelly got injured last season and there's no guarantees that Ginnelly has a fully fit season all this year. I hope he does, but I feel like the young players that we have, whilst they're good, Ewan Henderson could do a job, Connor Smith could do a job, even Jamie Walker could do a job, but I'm not overly convinced that any of them would be better than those other players that I mentioned.
Yeah, because in the system, which I'm going to assume that we're going to actually use throughout the campaign, we've not really gotten out striker as such, because like you mentioned there, like both the Gary Mackay-Stevens and both Ginnelly as well, they're not strikers as such, and the Boyce tends to sit like more in the number 10 role as such. Was it Nan's there, but again, he's a good player to have, but I wouldn't solely rely on him to actually give like sort of the goals. Henderson did well last season, but again, to have him as your sort of the vocal point for a striker and to give you goals, I'm not like entirely sort of convinced on that. So I think an out and out number 9 striker, I think is, like you said, I think it's something that I would like to see brought in as well.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether we touched on it on the last episode or not. I can't remember, but the squad numbers being released is a big indicator of that. Like, we haven't given a number 9 out to anyone, so I'm hoping that means that that's one of the areas that we're looking for. But if we're gonna, like, it sounds kind of odd, but I would like a Connor Washington type of player.
Yeah,
Obviously,
no,
we had him before,
yeah.
like someone that can lead the line but also play off the wings if we need to. Like, because I don't want to see us signing 5 or 6 new players now between now and the Celtic game, because to me, I don't think we need that. But I think if we can find a forward who's capable of playing off the wings, it would help. But I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. But Robbie did say that the talks with the 2 that we were in conversations with have kind of slowed down a little bit, which is concerning. But look, it is what it is. You just hope that if, like I said it last week, if we miss out on a target, I hope that we have a backup plan, because if we don't, we've left it very late.
Yeah, because I did say it like as well last week that if we were in the same sort of, state in terms of the recruitment for players, I would now be almost as concerned as yourself. And I think I'm there now. But like again, like you said, look, we have a squad there. It's more than capable of finishing it, like at least in the top 6. Like you said, I think it's more specific roles that we actually need now. Like you mentioned there, like the sort of striker role, like for the goals, like essentially.
No, exactly. So yeah, we'll hopefully we'll get a couple in, but yeah, I think at most we probably need 2 or 3 more, and then we'll be good to go. But obviously, if players leave as well, it's possible. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes.
Absolutely, mate. Well, that brings us on swiftly to the last segment of our news, and we got to have an exclusive interview courtesy of the This Is My Story and the podcast. It was a really, really good interview. They sat down with our new sporting director, Joe Savage, and it was a lot of the positive things that I took from it, Alan. Kind of part of me, was going to think that he might shy away from some of the questions that were asked, because as for the people that know of the This Is My Story was at the podcast and especially at Corbett, they do not mince the words. So I mean, I'll ask you what you thought about it, Alan. I take it you took more, was it at the positives? Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I did. I really liked it. I reached out to the guys on Twitter and basically said that I thought it was a really, really good interview. I thought it was really balanced and well put together as well. They clearly knew the sort of questions they could get away with asking, and the ones that would maybe have just stepped over the mark a little bit. But yeah, no, I really liked it, and I like Joe Savage. I've said it before. I'm a fan of him, and I think that his work that he's doing at Hearts is good. Is long overdue, to be honest, but. Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was very, very informative. And I kind of, the only sort of thing I will say, like before I go into bits that I actually liked about it, is that it's very easy to talk a good game. That's my not concern, but
but
it's easy. It's easy for someone to say all the right things. Is basically what I'm getting at. But you've got to back that up, and I think Joe Savage knows that. From what he said in the interview, it came across that he knows he's under pressure just as much as probably Robbie Neilson is. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. What did you think about it in general?
Again, was it? I thought it was quite insightful. I said the exact same thing last the week as well, and obviously Robbie is going to be under a lot of the pressure throughout this the campaign. But I made the point that if Joe Savage can't give Robbie the players that he thinks that he needs, blah 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 blah. I think some of the blame, if that were to happen, would have to fall on him as well. But one of the things that I did think was good is that when he first came in, and when he was speaking to Budge, one of the things that he said that was look, if I do this my way, and if in the end that it doesn't was it had to work out, he'll be able to hold his head high. I can say, look, it didn't work. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it he kind of strikes me as the kind of person that will do everything that he possibly can to try and get the players in, to try and make it a more sustainable sort of when was it at the club, in terms of the academy, as well, to try and get more youngsters through, to then was it to possibly be in the first team, and then onwards to possibly sell on as well. Again, I liked a lot of what he said, and I think the main thing that I took from it was just the one sentence that he said: "Talk is cheap." But you're right. So as long as he was at backs it up, like you said, Alan, because obviously every Hearts fan knows, especially when you're at the games as well, if there's something that does go wrong, the fans will be on you every step of the way. So, and I think he knows that, so, it'll be very interesting to actually see what unfolds throughout this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly on that before we move on to the main thing, I think one of the best bits that I kind of took away from it was what he was saying about not needing to, or he shouldn't have to sell the club to potential new players.
Absolutely
because all it should take is for them to realise how big this club is, because it is. Hearts a massive football club, and it should be easy to get players to want to come here. It should be. But equally, to that end, he also said about if a player wants unrealistic money, then the club's not going to be held to ransom and just pay whatever the players want, and they'll just say, well, look, this is what we're offering you. If you don't want it, fine, we'll move on.
Fine.
They obviously did that with Andy Irving. With a contract with Andy Irving, he said that they offered him 2 very good contracts, and Andy Irving turned them down because he wanted to go to Germany. Fair enough, enjoy the third tier of German football, Andy. Thanks very much. But it is what it is. But no, as I say, I was very impressed with Joe. But equally, back in the dark days, I was also very impressed with Austin McPhee and Ian Cathro and what they wanted to do with the club. So talk is very cheap, and as you say, time will tell.
Absolutely. Well, very well done to the This Is My Story podcast, and we will leave a link in the description to the interview. If you guys want to watch it, it is quite a good watch. So that wraps up our news segment. So we move on to the big topic, with the famous back in the top flight of Scottish football. As we mentioned at the start, it is a mere 2 weeks away until our first game, and our first home game back in the top flight, which will be at home to Celtic. Basically, what we're going to be doing in terms of the predictions that we want to kind of go throughout the campaign, we'll obviously do where we both think Hearts will actually to finish through at the end of the campaign. We'll go through where we think or how we'll do in terms of the cup runs as well, and what we would think maybe sort of deemed acceptable. We'll also go through our potential sort of top the goal scorers as well, and the potential the player and young players of the season. So shall we just dive straight in, Alan? Then we'll see, and we'll talk a bit about where we think and how we think our league the campaign of 2021 shall go.
Yeah, fire away.
So, obviously we touched a bit upon I don't know if it was last week or the weekend before, but like we talked a bit about like the first 5 games that we have got when the league starts, and of course, like, it is going to be like a very sort of hard, like, sort of 5 games, we've got Celtic, Hibs, Aberdeen as well, so it's going to be a very tough start. So going just straight, like, sort of to it, obviously it is without question that we should be, like, sort of finishing it in the top 6. That's a given. Was it even then as well? I think that was something that Joe Savage was mentioned, like, he wants to win and he wants to aim high as well.
Yeah.
So going off that, just basing the squad we have now and the structure that we have in place and how we've sort of been setting up throughout the last few games that we played, both in the friendlies and the league, the cup as well. I think a relatively acceptable and I think very doable was it league was it at the position at the end of the season. I have wrote down I would be happy and acceptable of 4th place. I think obviously not just for the fact that now 3rd and 4th are both, like, sort of European spots, like, of course, but again, like, what I've taken into consideration as well is that a lot of the teams in the top 3 throughout last season as well, teams that I didn't expect to do well, like, for the likes of your Hibs, for example, I didn't expect them to actually do as well as they did. And as much as I hate to say it, they have got like a squad that's got some quite good, like, sort of the players there. And obviously, like, even though the Rangers won the league, I thought the team of the season in that league was St. Johnstone. The first team to actually win the double, like, since the God knows how long, like, so I think they're going to be an exciting, like, sort of team as well. And like, just speaking on them, I think St. Johnstone, I think they're going to finish 3rd. I don't know why. I honestly, I know that sounds very sort of, like, strange to say, but I think, after the season that they had, I think they're going to actually be up there. And the reason that I do think that, Hibs, they're the kind of team where they'll have one quite good season every maybe 10 years. Like, what I mean? And Aberdeen, I don't think they're going to be sort of in contention as they usually are. Obviously, they're going to be a very sort of unpredictable team as well as us, like, as well. And I think Celtic you could probably throw into that as well. So I think the top 6 are going to be very mixed, but I would be very accepting and happy to a certain degree if we were to finish 4th throughout this campaign. What about yourself? Do you think that we should be going for 3rd or trying to aim higher? Or
I think personally that, I back you with the 4th place, to be honest, but not for the reasons that, well, yes, for the reasons that you've said, but also for other things. I think that for a long time, Hearts fans, and we're all guilty of this, because Joe Savage said it in his interview, we are the 3rd best, like, we're the 3rd biggest team in the country. We are. But that doesn't mean that you're automatically in contention for third place behind Celtic and Rangers. And I think
not at all.
And this isn't to criticise Hearts fans, because there's nothing wrong with aiming for that, because we did that for years and years and years. Hearts were that third force, like that's what we were. But we've not been that for a long time.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
I think a bit of reality needs to come into it as well. Don't get me wrong, I would love it if Hearts finished third next season, genuinely. And I'm not saying I wouldn't aim for that, because I absolutely would. But I just think that the way that I've seen the Scottish top flight going the last little while, obviously Rangers have come from not nowhere. Like they had money, they threw money at it, and they've stopped Celtic with their 10 in a row, which is great. Celtic last season were nowhere near the Celtic that we know. Like, shite. For whatever reason. Well, exactly, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
They were garbage last season. And I think that I'm not saying that meant that Hibs had sort of a false season last year, but I think had Celtic been better, had Celtic been the Celtic that we know they could have been, Hibs would have been nowhere near them. Genuinely.
No, man, of course.
I think Hibs' league position last season was kind of false in that sense, because I think that they could have split the Old Firm. They absolutely could have. And if they had a bit more consistency in their play, they probably would have. But they fell away towards the end, and Celtic remembered they were Celtic and started winning some games. But I think what you say about St Johnstone, for me, I think they'll be bottom six. Ooh. Genuinely, I think they'll be bottom six next season. And I purely base that off the fact that the pressure will be on them to show what they've got. And I don't know whether they've got enough to handle that. I hope I'm wrong, because I like St Johnstone. Don't get me wrong. I've got a little soft spot for them after last season. 2 cups is amazing. It's nice to see different names on the trophies, and the way that they handled it was brilliant. And obviously they beat Hibs in a final, which is even better. But I just think the pressure that now puts on them, it's like they're going to have to build on that. And how are they going to do that? But back to Hearts. Back to Hearts. I just think that, like I've said it just a second ago there, it's all about consistency. And Aberdeen, Hibs, ourselves, probably Motherwell, and I might even throw St Johnstone into that, right? I'll throw them in there as well. If a team can have a consistent run against teams outside of Celtic and Rangers, you've got every chance of finishing third. Hibs did that last season, and then they fell away a little bit, and that's why they were hanging on to third for some spells of the season. They deserved third last year. They deserved it. They were the third best team in the country, and some people will say they were the second best team in the country, which maybe they could have been. But I think that for us, it's a difficult one to say, because obviously you're looking at the squad we've got right now, and you're saying, right, that's a top 6 team right there, and it is. Yeah. Like if Hearts were to not sign a single player between now and when the transfer window closes, it's a top 6 team. Yeah. Is it a top 6 squad? I don't know. But, we just have to carry on with that. I think a large part of where Hearts will finish this season depends on Robbie Neilson. And that for me is not a worry, but it's like I was saying last week, that's why I'm not sure if he'll be the man at the end of the season that's still in the dugout. I like Robbie Neilson a lot, genuinely. I do, despite what some people said to me after last week's episode, saying I didn't like him on Twitter. But look, I like Robbie Neilson. I've got a lot of time for him. But my main concern is that we have to set up in the right way. Like, we've played 3-4-3 in pre-season. We played it towards the end of last year. And Joe Savage said it in his interview with This Is My Story guys, that they liked that system. At the end of last season, we went 5 games without losing a game. Now we've come into pre-season, we've played it every game. We've done well. If on the first day of the season he doesn't play that system against Celtic and he switches to a 4 at the back and goes defensive, I will be so disappointed. Because a game against Celtic at Tynecastle, with or without fans, a game against Celtic at Tynecastle, we have to have a go at them. We can't sit off and show them respect, because we've done that for years. And I think if, like Hibs did it last year, Don't show respect to Celtic and Rangers. St Johnstone did it. Teams have not shown them respect for a long time. They have a go at them and they say, look, we don't care if you're Celtic and Rangers. We're going to have a go at you and see what we can do. Okay, you might end up on the end of a hammering if it doesn't work for you, but at least you have a go.
Yeah.
But this is the doubt that I have. I just think, will Robbie Neilson absolutely shat it on the first day of the season at Tynecastle and play 4 at the back? I hope he doesn't. I hope he sticks with the 3 and I hope we have a go. And in saying that, if in the big games that we should, have a go in, I want him to have a go because then they're winnable. But that for me is why we'll finish 4th, I think, just because you need to have a consistent run and you need to keep injuries as well is a massive thing. Injuries is a big thing as well because, we lose, say, for example, we lost Craig Gordon to injury. Please don't let it happen.
Fucking don't do that.
That's what I'm talking about. It's fine margins like that, but I do think we'll finish 4th. And I think that if we did, I'd be happy with that. Providing if Hibs are going to finish above us in 3rd place, who knows? Who knows? No. I wouldn't want to pick who's going to be 3rd. It all depends on consistency between the probably 4 teams that are under Celtic and Rangers. Whoever gets the most points between that group will finish 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, Alan, because I think that I said last week as well that I personally deep down think that Robbie will still be here, but again, because I'm about to eat my Edwards here. I think obviously you were saying if he does shit it and then he kind of reverts back to the boring, was it at the possession play, sort of football, and not trying to have a go at teams, because it's almost like I've started to view it as it's almost like a comfort, sort of at the blanket for him, that he knows that it can work, but 9 times out of 10, it won't. No. And yeah, I think you're just sort of saying about consistency. If we do get to a point where we start to go on a few defeats and it starts to roll into actually more, I think in the back of his mind, I think he'll slowly start to revert back to his old ways, and then I think that would be probably the turning point of him to actually leave. That's that's one way I think that it will sort of end up that way, from sort of what you said as well. But look, apart from was it actually being to put the back down into the Championship, we've got absolutely nothing at all to lose. Go at teams, was it because there's no what's the if what Joe Savage wants to actually do in terms of the future, to try and sort of split Celtic and Rangers into maybe one day win our first league title in was it in the God knows how long, these the sort of games that you have to go out and win, Celtic, the Rangers, Hibs, blah 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 blah. You they can't be scared to against these teams. We said it sort of just last the week is there. The Castle is a frightening place to come, right? Players players and the opposing fans hate it, and especially with fans in as well, it's a massive advantage. And so if we can put that into practice on on the field as well, right? Then I don't see how we can lose these games.
No, I don't. I think that's it. I think at least showing intent to win them, is for me what we have to do. It's like you say, we've got nothing to lose. Even at Tynecastle, I'm not saying we go to Parkhead, go to Ibrox, and we attack. I'm not saying that, because if we do, we'll probably get absolutely slaughtered. But I think as well, you always find that newly promoted sides they get a bit of a bounce having been promoted. It's a confidence thing, and it's right, we're back. We saw it when we got promoted back up the first time. We saw it when Hibs got promoted back up again. It happens, you get that bounce. And I think the first 5 games of the season, we'll probably see that because they're massive games. So if these players, and Joe Savage and the This Is My Story boys mentioned it as well, like, these are the games that these players should be puffing their chests out, saying, right, we play for Hearts, we're in the Premier League. This is our house. You're coming to Tynecastle. This is ours now. You're not just going to come here and get an easy win. So yeah, I hope that we do that and we do approach them with that way. But yeah, a lot of it is going to depend on Robbie. And also, let's not forget as well, transfer window's not closed yet.
No, of course not.
There's still chances that we'll sign some players that'll make us better. But yeah, I mean, like I said, to round it off, I'd be happy with 4th. I'd probably be happy with 5th, to be quite honest, even if, like, providing there wasn't a massive points gap. If we're cut adrift and we're far away, then I'd be worried. But fourth is what I've written down. But
me too.
No, 4th is what I've written down. I'd want that. I would want that. But it depends how tight it's going to be. I think that's the other side of it. But 4th place, and but if we're not in the top 6 by Christmas, then serious questions will need to be asked, I think.
Absolutely. So you heard it here first, guys. 4th place is our prediction for the league campaign 2021-22 season. So with that bit done, we're going to sort of have a small wee chat about what we expect from the cup games as well. Obviously from the last campaign that we won't go into, but the story as such. Do you think, Alan? I mean, I'll let you start off this one. Do you think more, especially in the Scottish Cup as well? We've got a massive, prove? Like especially with the result that was. Do you think that this should be Robbie should be trying to aim to actually do the better in, or do you think that he'll kind of put that to one side and not be as concerned? Or
I think there's probably a happy medium somewhere. I think we've had a good run in the Scottish Cup in recent years. Finals, semi-finals, finals. We've done well, and Robbie will be well aware of that. And obviously, last season's results in the cups will be fresh in his mind as well. So he'll probably want to. I mean, I've predicted a quarter-final. To be honest, I've predicted a quarter-final. I don't know if we'll get to Hampden this year, but I'd love to be wrong. I think that it'll depend how the league season's going in terms of how seriously he takes the cups as well. I'd love to see us get back to Hampden. Don't get me wrong, I'd absolutely love it. There's nothing better than a day out, even if Hampden is an absolutely horrendous football stadium for football. But I think he has to take them seriously because of what happened last season. I think if he doesn't take them seriously and we don't, go, I'm not even saying if we don't go far in them, if we just don't look good in the cups and we're, depending on who we get drawn against, obviously it's a lottery depending on who we draw. Like we could get Celtic or Rangers in the first round and be out, you don't know. But it's one of those, again, similar to the league. If he takes it seriously, I'll be happy, regardless of where we finish. And that, I mean, I didn't actually make a prediction for the Premier Sports Cup either, but pretty much the same for both, to be honest. I just want to see us do as well as we can. And yeah, I've predicted a quarter final. I don't think we'll get to Hampden, but I'd love to be wrong. What about yourself?
I've went for I've actually Ed wrote down in big capitals. I've wrote for at least the semi-finals for both. Now I know that's a very very tall expectation, but I think look, the league is the most important thing. Let's just put that there. But I think both Robbie and the players as well, and was it just as much Joe Savage as well, that we don't want anything like that to happen ever again. And because further, with all due respect to sort of to those teams, there's not anything to say that we can't go on and win these games. Alan, because we proved it, because we went through, we got the hardest, sort of draw from the quarterfinals. Went from Rangers, Hibs, and Celtic, and even though we got beat on the penalties, I'm still going to take from the fact, and I will say it all the day long, we were the better side that day, 100%. Apart from was it the penalty and a ridiculous goal from Christie.
Yeah,
Celtic had nothing that day. They had fuck all that day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think. It's and I mean, I'm going to jump in again just
because
something's just popped into my head. I just think that in terms of cup competitions, on our day, like you just said it there, on our day we can beat anyone in a one-off game. In a one-off game on our day we can beat anyone. Hibs at Hampden, we win that every day of the week because it's Hibs at Hampden. We seem to be able to get ourselves up for these games, and I like that. I like the fact that they fire themselves up. And I mean, the Hibs, the semi-final, the odds were stacked against us. We were a championship side, hadn't played competitive football. Hibs season had started, ours hadn't. So obviously with the delayed championship and everything, Hibs were the favourites to win that game. But whenever Hibs are favourites to do anything, they have an amazing ability to fuck it up. And don't get me wrong, we probably have Craig Gordon to thank for the fact that we didn't lose that game, but I'll take that every day of the week. And then you go into the final against Celtic, and again, we're the underdogs again, but it's Celtic weren't great that day. I don't think we were particularly fantastic either. And the first half was pretty average. I think if we'd gone at them properly in the first half, we probably would have won that game in the 90 minutes. But, cup competitions are a lottery. It depends on who you draw. But I'd love another day out at Hampden, as I say. But if I don't get one, I'm not going to be overly concerned. It's the priority for me is restoring Hearts back into the Premier League, back into the top six, and establishing that we are back and there's no danger of ever being back in the Championship ever again.
Thank fuck for that, honestly. So now that we've covered a bit of the cup competition, we're going to be going more specifically some the predictions about the squad. So we're going to cover a wee bit about who we think may be the top goal scorer of the campaign for Hearts. And I mean, you said there, Alan, the transfer window, is not done yet. So there may be someone who might be the top the goal scorer, before we know it. Do you want to have a bash at who you think might be, or do you want me to say mine?
I'll go for it.
Let's hear it.
It's a player that I absolutely adore, and everybody that listens to this regularly will know exactly who I'm about to say. It's Liam Boyce. Now, I think he was last season's top scorer as well. Knows what he has to do, works in the team, works with the players that are around him. I think now, if we have a fully confident Gary Mackay-Steven and a fully fit Josh Ginnelly, that should hopefully, in theory, give him more chances to score. And you've said it about Liam Boyce before, and I've said it about Liam Boyce before, that he wastes a lot of the chances that he gets presented. But I have a feeling next season he's going to get even more chances to score, providing he's, like you've said as well, like we're predicting a top goal scorer. We don't even have a number 9 in the squad right now. Like we could go out and sign someone. We could sign someone when we're finished recording today, and they could go on and score 20 goals like Kyle Lafferty. Nobody knows. But I just think with the current group of players we have and the system, Liam Boyce should get more chances to score. And he's a clever guy. The intelligence, the quality. And I just think that even with the experience as well, I'm backing Boyce to be top goal scorer. I think he'll probably, I mean, if I was going to hazard a guess how many goals, I'd probably be looking double figures anyway, probably
Oh yeah.
12 to 15, hopefully, across all competitions. Would be nice. If he hits 20 across all competitions, I'd be even happier with that. But yeah, no, I think Boyce for me should have more opportunities to score goals this season. So hopefully the ones that he wastes this season don't matter too much, and he bags a fair few.
Yeah. Well, before I say mine, I'm gonna kind of point out why I don't think so.
Yeah,
Already, I don't personally think Boyce will be now. It's just to kind of highlight what you said there. Now, obviously, I was a bit more critical of Ed Boyce throughout last year, where there was a lot of chances that he missed, was wasted as well. Of course, we were in like a different sort of setup as well, and the way that most teams set up in the championship as well, like they tend to sit back as well, so you don't get that much chances to actually score. And even though he got 18 goals that season, I still think he could have got a hell of a lot more. And obviously there are other factors to take into account, but I think the back of my mind, I think because he's going to be going up against the better sides. I don't know. There's just something in me that I don't think he's going to be as on target as he should be.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
It's not to say that I don't like him at all. I think he's great. I think he's a huge asset that you have in the squad. I mean, I think the responsibility that Stephen Naismith had on the park, I would like to think that he would kind of take that responsibility to try and talk a bit more, to try and breathe up as such. But on that note, and I'm gonna shoot myself in the fucking foot, honestly. Why I think this, I have no idea, and it's not through my own sort of was it the positive outlook, because I've just got a funny feeling that he's going to be the goal scorer. I think it's going to be Gary Mackay-Stevens. I don't know why. I don't know why. I know. What a statement! What a statement to make.
Is this you being converted to be part of the Gary Mackay-Steven fan club now after all the bashing he got last season?
I don't know what is in this, mate, but I have no idea why.
No, you could be right. You could be right.
I don't know why, but I think, again, with all due respect, sort of to the teams we played, throughout last season, we played, was it the Cali? We played Rafe. We've played, was it the Peterhead? Was it the Covey? Sort of the Rangers as well. So they're not going to be as good as the teams they're going to be facing. But I think throughout these last few games, we've said it quite a few times that he thrives on the confidence, and that's now 2 goals in 2 games. Is that right? So far.
Yeah.
And I think given the opportunity, obviously I know that both him and Gianelli, they're going to be more expected to kind of feed, the boys to try and score as well. But at the same time, I think both of them, because they've got a bit more speed and the width than the boys. I think equally they're going to have probably the same amount of chances to score as the boys as well. And I don't know what it is. It annoys me because obviously from my view, he's still got a point to actually prove, and he will to prove me wrong, and I will put my hands up if he starts to perform more on a consistent sort of basis, like against the Rangers, Hibs, Celtics, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
So if he does that, I don't think it's a long shot to say that he'll be
No.
possibly the club's top goal scorer by the end of the season. God knows why I thought this, but yeah,
Well,
that's
there's an interesting one that I was actually just looking up there while you were
Mm.
speaking. There's a Twitter account which is at Hearts Stats on Twitter.
Mm.
They posted up a thing 4 days ago, and this maybe supports what you're saying.
Okay.
Gary Mackay-Steven has now scored 6 goals in our last 4 games. The first player to do this since Mark De Vries, who only needed 3 games to
Fucking
do it.
hell.
So
Jesus.
I'm not saying that Gary Mackay-Steven's going to be up there, but he might be.
But yeah, but to be fair, Mark the Beast scored 4 goals in his first home game. Like fucking hell,
Exactly.
like, I mean, so
the end of the tweet is who only needed 3 games to do it. You might remember who the first 4 goals were against. So no, I mean,
man,
I don't.
yeah.
Do you know? I don't think it's as ridiculous a shout as you could have made. I'm genuinely surprised you didn't say Ginelli. To be honest, I thought you were a founding member of the Ginelli fan club. To be honest, as much as I love Ginelli as well,
Mate,
but yeah, I thought Ginelli would have been up there.
Mate, like I could have sat here like and said, right, who's going to be your top goal scorer? Andy Halliday. Who's going to be your player of the season? Andy Halliday. Where will Hearts was it at the finish in the league? Andy Halliday. So like, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to be that bad. Like it is.
Well, I'll throw one at you. I'll throw one at you just now then, off the cuff, that we didn't actually predict, but
I like it.
Now, this is obviously the way the team is set up right now. We don't have a number 9, so I'm disregarding that, right?
Right.
If we somehow, by some miracle, didn't sign a number 9, right, or some disaster rather, didn't sign a number 9, and we went with Ginelli, Gary Mackay-Steven, and Liam Boyce for the full season, none of them got injured. They played as many games as they could. Obviously, they're probably not going to play every game of the season, let's be honest, but imagine in this world they did. How many goals in total do you think they'll get? The 3 of them together.
Right. Obviously, we've only
and I'm talking league only. Like
don't
worry about cups. Go league only.
No, man. Because obviously we've not seen much of them all sort of had playing like sort of like, you know, as one. And especially when it comes to more of the league teams, you know, if they get the chance to actually drive on, I think they could be scary. Like, honestly, because, like, you know, I still think that Ginelli is going to be a key player, you know, and, you know, and I think defenses as well, when they see him in person, they're going to be straight in their pants. I think, because I think Boyce, even though I don't think he'll be the top goal scorer, I still think he'll probably get into double figures. I still think that. With Mackay-Stevens, who I think is going to get more, I think he'll probably get around. Like, I don't think he'll be far away from like, you know, sort of like, you know, far ahead of Boyce. I think it'll be like maybe 2 or 3 goals. So, so in that respect, I think he'll probably get about maybe around the 15 mark. Ginelli, again, I think he's got more an eye for the setting up and creating chances. But when he does get the opportunity to shoot, oh boy, can he fucking shoot. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I reckon probably about maybe 30, 35 the goals. I reckon is not a bad sort of aim to go for.
Yeah, I would go similar to that. I think, as I say, Boyce for me will be top scorer. I've got him getting 12. I don't know why. There's just something in my head that makes me think he'll get 12. Yeah, I don't know why. I think maybe 12 or 13. I think 12 for Boyce. Like you said about Ginelli, I'm not saying Ginelli's going to get considerably less than that. But
No.
I
But
think Ginelli will be. I mean, we haven't predicted it, but top assist, I reckon, will be Ginelli.
yeah, no. I think so as well.
Because I think he's got that ability. I don't. In that three, Ginelli's the sort of wide player. Mackay Stevens seems to be the one that's kind of cutting in and being a bit more central. Ginelli's done it too, but Ginelli loves to just hug the touchline, I think, and get balls into the box. But yeah, I'll go Boyce to get maybe 12, Mackay Stevens to get maybe 7 or 8, maybe. So there's 20 already, and then maybe Ginelli maybe chip in with 5 or 6, maybe. I'll say maybe 25 to 30 for me would be the bracket for the three of them. I don't know whether 2 of them will hit double figures, like you've said. I'm not sure if that will happen. But again, a lot of it depends on how Robbie sets them up and whether all 3 of them play consistently together.
Yeah. So we've gave our the predictions for the top goal scorer. Obviously, this next one is going to be a bit harder because we've not seen the players actually like sort of play in the league yet, but it's more down to sort of a gut, like sort of was it at the feelings. For player of the season, now if you don't mind, mate, I'll was it at the fire my was it at the prediction. I've not even went for like a few players that may like sort of get. I've put it down only to one, because like we've talked about him a lot, and I think on the basis that if he was it to keeps himself fit, I reckon Josh Ginelli, I reckon will be player like of the season again if he keeps himself fit, because he's shown what he can do. And on his day, I think he could be a terrific asset, like, in the actual team,
Oh, yeah.
Like he shows, was it Ed, the great, like, sort of, was it Ed, the character? He, like, he has always a desire to actually get on the ball, drive up the park. He's not afraid to, like, Ed, to get into scraps as well to try and, like, sort of, like, was it Ed to get the ball back as well. And when he does get the opportunity, he does have himself an eye for the goal as well, and I think in terms of the players that we've got now, he kind of strikes me as the person that has got the full, let's like sort of like Ed the package, and in that respect, like again, he's still they got to prove that to a more sort of was it Ed the fuller like extent, but I think he like sort of could like sort of potentially be my player of the season again. If he stays fit, then I reckon he'll be up there.
Yeah. I've sat here just like a nodding dog, just nodding along. I realized just when you were talking there, I realized that we maybe should have done it in 2 different ways. We maybe should have done a fans player of the season and a player's player of the season like they do normally. But I think for me, Ginelli is certainly an option. I didn't go for Ginelli, funnily enough. I went for a player at the complete opposite end of the pitch. I went for our newly appointed captain, Craig Gordon, to be player of the season next year.
Yeah.
For the pure and simple reason that some of the performances he put in the championship was one of the main reasons that we won the league as convincingly as we did. And I think that he will carry that on into this season. And with the 3 at the back, if it's a system we stick with, he might find himself getting a little bit tested a little bit more than he was in the championship.
Yeah, of course.
He might be busier than he was in the championship, is my point. But obviously, I hope that's not the case. I hope the defence is not busy at all and we're banging in goals at the other end. But I just think that Craig Gordon will be a massive, massive asset to have. I look at Rangers with Alan McGregor, and Alan McGregor at Rangers, despite his age, is still one of their key players. And definitely. I think Craig Gordon is the same for us. I'm actually more surprised you didn't say Andy Halliday and I didn't say Liam Boyce. But anyway, we're branching out here, guys. We're branching out to different players.
If we want to go for fans player of the year, fucking Andy Halliday all day long, son. All day long.
Well, I'll say it. I'll say it right now. I think fans player of the year will be Janelli, and I think player of the year will be Craig Gordon. That's my two. But I'd love, it doesn't matter realistically who wins them as long as they have a good season and as long as we kick on. But yeah, for me, player of the year, Craig Gordon.
But not a bad shout there, mate. So again, guys, you heard it here first. Alan's pick for player of the year, Craig Gordon, and my choice being the the pacey winger that is Josh Ginnelly. We're going to round things off just to touch on who we think may be the young player of the year. I'll be honest, Alan. I didn't really have a lot to choose because, again, with all due respect, again, we've fielded out a lot of the younger players for the friendlies and the cup games as well that we've had. But again, whether or not we'll have a lot of the younger players in the squad, throughout the league, was it at the campaign, maybe, a bit, was it harder to actually tell who maybe a good young exciting was it at prospect as well. But I did I mean before you go on, I mean, I did write one down though.
All right, okay. Sorry, the way you were speaking, I wasn't sure if you'd picked one.
No. I did. We saw a lot of sort of good things from him last year, and I think if he gets to the chance as well, I think he can do better. And that is Ewan Henderson. Again, I know that you're saying about most likely it'll be the front three that'll be discussed. I don't. Part of me thinks I don't unless one of them gets injured. Obviously, I don't think he'll get a lot of game time as he did last year.
Yeah.
However, as the season went on throughout the championship, it was a very slow progression, but it was a steady at the digression for him. And I think if he can show that again, I think maybe if he would want to stick around, was it Henderson? I think maybe in a few years' time, I think he can probably solidify himself as a possible first team, was it at the player? But again, I guess it just kind of all falls down to how much was it at the game time that he actually gets. And I think he's got the players and the more experienced players around him to actually sort of get at the better. So yeah, that would probably be my pick. Did you have anybody in mind or?
So again, I've got nodding dog syndrome because I also wrote down Ewan Henderson.
Yeah,
great. I wrote down Ewan Henderson for virtually the same reasons that you said, but again, it depends on what Robbie wants to do with the youth players. I fully support him staying with Finlay Pollock. I was close to putting Finlay Pollock down, but we don't know how Finlay Pollock's going to be in the Premier League. It's it's difficult when you've not seen them play under that pressure before of being in the Premier League. But Ewan Henderson for me is probably the furthest along in terms of our young players, if you want to say that. He's probably had the most exposure to the first team and been involved and around that. And that maybe gives him an advantage in Robbie's eyes. Maybe he thinks, okay, well, this is a player I can have in the squad and I don't need to loan him out.
No.
So, but then equally, I mean, if we, again, all of these predictions could be totally out the window if we went out and sign a player that comes in and smashes it. But if we go out and bring in a winger that's to compete with Gary Mackay-Steven, there's every possibility Ewan Henderson goes out on loan, which might happen. But
possibly
the squad, the way it's set up right now, I think Ewan Henderson in that group of young players, you've got Connor Smith, you've got Ewan Henderson, you've got Finlay Pollock, And you've got like the ones below that, which are like the Aidan Denhams, the Leo Watsons that played the other day. And there's a group of young players at Hearts that are not far away from being in that first team bracket. But I think Ewan Henderson's at the front of that in terms of a player that can come off the bench and help. I think we do have a lot of good young players, and I think Finlay Pollock, and I think Connor Smith is a name that people seem to forget about. He's been out on loan a lot, and he might get a chance. You just don't know. But no, I think Ewan Henderson could do a lot worse than learning from someone like Gary Mackay-Steven as well. I think they're very similar in terms of where Robbie wants them to play. It's obviously both sort of off the wing, cutting in. That's the sort of Ewan Henderson way. I don't see Ewan Henderson as like a Ginelli type of winger. I see Ewan Henderson as a winger that will cut in, and that's what Gary Mackay-Steven's been doing since last season. So I think if Ewan makes the most of that, then he could go on, and he might get cup games. He might play the odd game here and there. He might have to come in for injured players and things. So I think Ewan Henderson for me, young player of the season. But equally, it wouldn't surprise me if he went out on loan between now and the end of the season. Who knows?
Exactly.
It's unpredictable. It really is unpredictable. We don't have. I think even recently, John Suter was winning Young Player of the Year, and he's 24 years old now. And you're like, surely he doesn't still qualify for Young Player of the Year? He won it like a couple of years. Exactly. He won it a couple of years ago, and I'm like, all right, okay, but yeah, it's an interesting time. And Joe Savage, like going full circle back to what we spoke about at the start, but Joe Savage talking about young players coming in to the group. That's all well and good, but they have to be good enough, and they have to be ready. And Andy Irving was ready last season. He contributed last season. He was fantastic. Had his moments, but he wasn't great, let's be honest. But I'm all for young players getting a chance in the first team, but they have to add something. It can't just be a novelty of, oh, we've got a 19-year-old, we want him to play. It's not. I look at, and I hate saying this, but I look at Hibs and I see that boy Doidge, the fullback. He's got potential. He's a good little player. He's not just in that Hibs team because he's just another young player. They've put him in because they see him as a first team player, and he is. Yeah,
was he not on the books at Hearts? I'm positive that he was. So
he was. He was. I look at like what we did with Aaron Hickey, and Aaron Hickey was a player that got a chance at left back because of injuries and went in and never looked back and was a first team player. And that's what I want young players at Hearts. I don't just want them thrown in just as like a novelty and, oh, look, here's another young player. Let's put him on the last 10 minutes of a game just for fun, I don't want that. I want young players to come in and actually add something. And I think Ewan Henderson, given the chance, could do that. But he needs to get that chance. And if he's not going to get it, sending him out on loan's not a bad idea. But providing he stays and plays, he's the player of the season. Well, the young player of the season for me.
Fair enough, Alan. Fair enough. Well, again, guys, you heard it here first. We'll just do a quick run through of what our predictions for the new league campaign are going to be. So we both think for the league, we're going to finish in 4th place for the Scottish Cup and the League Cups. Alan reckons about the quarterfinal stage. I reckon this semi-finals. Top goal scorer, you obviously went with the boys, and I reluctantly went with the Gary Mackay-Stevens. Player of the season, I went with Josh Gianelli, and Alan went with Craig Gordon. And finally, for the young player of the season, we have both went with Ewan Henderson. But again, time will tell if the predictions are going to be right. So yes, that wraps off our 13th episode of the podcast. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. It is really appreciated as always. And again, if you are a fan of the podcast, please think about subscribing and smash that like button as well. As always, all the links are in the description, and as was previously mentioned as well, we will leave a link to the Joe Savage interview done by This Is My Story podcast as well. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can as well. The Twitter account is on screen and in the description. as is the podcast email as well at sinceIwasyoung1874@gmail.com. And you can get in touch with Alan. His link to his Twitter page is there, as well as my football channel on YouTube, What Ewan's Doing. But Alan, sir, always a pleasure, and let's just hope that the predictions are almost right. Like, I guess.
Aye, well, we'll fast forward to the end of the season when we're lifting the league trophy and we've won the league and cup double. So that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. just do not let Gary Mackay-Stevens be top goal scorer. I don't want to be proven wrong. I really don't. But
you predicted it now. It's out there. It's in the airwaves.
Aye. It's all good, mate. It's all good. But however way, as long as we win, then I guess we'll all be happy, mate. So it's all good. But yes, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. You take care. Bye for now.